position statement, or they've written a letter or whatever, if we could put our hands on that, maybe that could help you.
I was just reminded about the rule of order. But just remember, please wait for me to acknowledge you to speak before you speak, and then that way we're making sure that we're allowing people to have time to talk. Peter, and then Judy, and then Holly.
So I think 2214 has promise, and there are many things that are good and is likely to be in that direction. But the question is, I don't think there's a choice, frankly, between supporting it or not supporting it. I think it's a question of saying it's encouraging. There are things we definitely like eliminating biology, and of course, guys, you can do it last week actually. But there are, I think the board properly registered as other, because there certainly are implementation issues, there are questions of timing, there are questions of fairness to the next class, there are questions of, if you eliminate all alternatives, this eliminates all alternatives, what does that do to our English language learners who use collection of evidence, for example? What about the SAT or ACTA? They would not be allowed to use that as an alternative measure. Anyway, there are a bunch of issues here. And I think it's good for the board to come in and say, this is promising, let's work to make it the best possible situation, instead of just sort of rushing and saying, yes, we're done with the discussion. And I don't think anybody around the table is saying that, but around this table anyway. So I think it's appropriate to identify these issues, to be positive about the direction, but encourage a really refined analysis of what exactly this means, both short term and I think very importantly longer term, as we will live with this for years.
So it's 5:10, so I have Judy, Holly, and then Deborah. And then we will have time tomorrow, if we feel like, again, we need to cue this up one more time, we will have time tomorrow to talk some more. Judy?
Thank you. I agree with both Connie and Peter. My concern is also the implementation timing, and in Randy's letter, he talks about additional senior year coursework in their area of deficiency as outlined in their high school and beyond plan. And as we've been listening to school districts and so forth and kids talking about how that's implemented in their school district, it doesn't seem to be currently uniformly robust. And that would be I think that would be a huge problem to address, especially going into next year. A student did not get a 3 or a 4 on the SBAC, and then and didn't have a real high school and beyond plan. So putting them into a remedial course or into a course of their deficiency, they wouldn't really know what that would be. So that's a big concern for me.
Holly?
So I just wanted to address Cindy's question. So in a really simplistic way, what I would say to the senior who did not meet standard on MECASP as a 10th grader, took the SBAC this year and did not score a level 3, which I wouldn't expect them to if they didn't meet standard, right? If the equivalent of level 1 as a 10th grader probably. I would say this to them. I would say, instead of taking algebra and collection of evidence second period next year, you have a choice. You can take finance, or you can take algebra tech, where you'll work on the Habitat for Humanity house. Which would you rather, which aligns better with your high school and beyond plan? That's what it would look like from a school, from a student perspective, nothing more.
So, yeah, and I agree with you. I think what 2214 does, it sets the bar high, but then it opens the path real wide, so that students short term will have many different ways they can meet their graduation requirements, But what we have in fact done, longer term, we really don't, to Connie's point, have a graduation requirement that goes back to the SBAC. So we've lost comparable rigor to a large extent. That's the long-term compromise that we're making right now, with no clear pathway forward to say, longer term, we're going to do X, Y, Z to make sure that students who don't score a 3 or 4 actually And that's the real concern. I think that the path is wide right now, the way this is written. And probably we may see graduation rates actually increase because all students have to do is take a class, just the next class, to Holly's point. But long term, I really would just ask us to think, is this where we want to be for kids who don't get there? And what's the strategy to ensure longer term that we are going to really have kids who are ready for the next step in their college, in their post-secondary career? That's the compromise that 2214 puts us in that box. And it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off.
Okay. So I think we're likely hearing a lot of what's happening down in Olympia around the state. And as we prepare to see maybe even another version of the bill, we have at least some inclinations there might be another version. We will continue to update you about that, but so I'll get a sense from folks either today or tomorrow, if we want to bring this up one more time. But we're at 5:15, so I think we will adjourn for today. And then, but we have Stephanie, or is it Denise, are you giving some guidance for tonight?
In your directions tab is map and directions to the restaurant. It's Bella Italia. And it's in Kennewick, so it's just 10 or 11 minutes away from the hotel. I'm assuming everyone's gonna go back and change.
Page 6.
And Bunker said that she would